In 1967, Greece underwent a radical change in government. A group of conservative army colonels seized power from the king and the parliament. One of the effects of this takeover was a loss of much personal freedom for Greek citizens. Because of this and the lack of opportunities for higher education for his children, George Kokkas decided to leave his comfortable life in Greece to find stability here in the United States.
First thing, I'm coming 1967, on August 1967, first time in my life in the United States. I saw the country and I start to like. So, but I don't have a permanent visa. So I going back to Greece after 3 months. My occupation is a machinist or tool and die maker from Greece. To Greece I have machinist shop. I own machinist shop. But the situation of the war 1967 was very bad. The politician system to Greece, the kings and the prime minister, fight each the other, so don't take care of the people, take care of himself. So the work over there was very bad. That day, a worker to Greece make about $5 a day, and the working pay in the United States was about $30 a day. But the reason I'm coming to United States was because the situation to Greece, like I told you, 1967 was bad, and I feel about the education of my kids. Because to Greece, that days have only one university, and if you have a kid who want to go to university, it was very hard to have the chance to go to university. So I find out the best thing for me and the best thing for my family is to move to the United States. So I have a visa from my relatives, and I'm coming here in 1969. Everybody hear about the United States, and everybody believes it's the paradise. And sometimes people believe in the United States, walk on the streets, you find $1. I find out you find the dollars, but you have to work a little bit hard to find the dollars. I come here on a Saturday, and Tuesday I start to work. So I have a job in the machine shop, and I working hard. And I save every penny I make. So after 6 months, I have the opportunity to put it down $5,000 to buy a house. And I move on the 4th of July. Is Independence Day for the Americans, and they to move in my own house. So I start to work more hard because I figure out, I have to buy a bed, I have to buy a table, I have to buy a chair, a spoon, a fork, because I'm coming to this country with 4 suitcases and nothing else. So anyway, the God helped me, and my work helped me, and I was honest, and I believe I was a good person, and I have a good chance, to survive. And my dream, coming true.
Early immigrants who could not speak or understand English were often looked down upon and discriminated against by many Americans. But George Kokkas found that his lack of fluency caused American friends to go out of their way to help him to learn and get along in a new society.
The American people really is friendly and help the immigrant here, And I find a couple times on my first job, a lot of people to help me, how to start to learn English. The first week I start to work on the first machine shop, after Friday, the first Friday work, have a little bit drink. Everybody, the employee and the employer, have a drink together, the secretaries, everybody. I'm the new guys over there, and I'm from Greece, and he's asking me what I like to drink, so I have to have an answer. So I figure out a little bit, and I start to thinking, and I say, I have to tell him, anything. But don't come into my mind, because that days, I'm thinking Greek, and I translate to English. So I make mistake, and I told him everything. I want to say anything, and I told him everything. So everybody started laughing, and I figure out, something wrong. And I start thinking, and I understand, I make a mistake. That's my first mistake. And after, some guys, who was a very good friend, every time I start to talk, and I say one word and I say wrong, he started to correct me and say, George, not like that, but like that. And I appreciate that one, and I don't have a car and give me a ride. Not only him, but everybody from the first up, give me a ride or pick him up in the morning, I have a good idea about the American people, how trim the immigrants and the people to come in from the other sides, because most of them or them parents, come from the other side. So everybody have the ID.
Although Greece does have an election system, the selection of candidates in a primary caused George some confusion when he had his first chance to vote in America.
I have my first vote, last election, primary election, So, and it was very fun for me, because the day to have the election to Greece, I remember over there, on that day, everything is closed. People stay on a line to vote. From 5 o'clock in the morning, go to the place to vote, and stay on a line. Old people, young people, everybody. Here, the American people, not is hard to go to vote, It's a very cool people, don't give attention. And I ask a lot of people, the time to have the opportunity to vote, I ask a lot of friends, if you vote, say, I'll not go to vote. I say to them, that's your chance, that's your gun. You have to vote. For that reason, after coming from my work, the first chance is to go to vote. So I was there, and it was primary, and you know what's going on. The woman asked me which vampire I like, So I say, I'm not going to tell you. Say, you have to tell me. I say, no, I'm not going to tell you. That's a secret vote. Say, no, it's a secret, but that's a primary. That's no finished election. So, and I was out, and I asked somebody, was with me, and say, she asked me, can I going to tell her? Say, sure, you have to tell her, So I was in, and I tell him, I want to vote Democrat, That's the story about the election.
In spite of what America has offered George and his family, he still misses some aspects of the life he led in Greece.
The only problem is that sometimes I feel a little bit disappointed because I have a different life over there. Like the people over there, entertain himself and enjoy the life a little bit better. Here, you have everything. You have a house, you have a car, but you don't have the time because you have to work hard to make the money to pay the bills. And after, later on, you're so tired, you don't have the chance to enjoy anything else, like to Greece, the life is different, you can stay outside, to 12 o'clock in the night. All the restaurants and bar is open and have different cafe, like sidewalk cafe. You go and meet your friends and meet your relatives in a cafe. Sometimes it's with music or other music, Here, don't have anything of that. A lot of people still call me a Greek. Or George the Greek. Now, say, no, I'm American citizen, I'm not Greek. But really I'm Greek because I was born to Greece, and I feel like yesterday I was Greek, like only with the paper after American, I'm coming in this country 40 years old, and I can forget very easy the country to I spent my first 40 years.
Achilles Manolakis first came to the United States as an exchange student. This initial exposure to America left some vivid impressions.
I first came to the U.S. in 1957 as an American field service student, and I finished my senior year in high school. And my first impression when I landed in New York was, more than anything else, astonishment. I didn't expect that I would see the buildings the way they were, the neon signs in Times Square. People in the streets looked different, they walked different. Of course, they spoke a strange language. They were speaking English. At the time, it was strange for me, although I could speak English before I got here. But I was not accustomed to listening to it all the time. And then about 10 days later, I went to Los Angeles, and there things were quite different. What amazed me there was not so much the size of the buildings, but of how long you had to travel to go from one place to the other. You could spend hours on the streets, just driving. Of course, very soon I found out that the educational system was completely different. Greek high schools and American high schools are very different. Greek high schools are more structured, more rigid. For example, in the high school I went to, we had to spend 6 days a week going to school and 8 hours a day going to school. We were taking 14 different subjects, and of course, when I came to the U.S. and all we had was 5 hours a day for 5 days a week, I felt it was a rather pleasant change. In Greek high schools you learn, on the average, more science, more history, more literature than in American high schools. On the other hand, you have absolutely no freedom to adjust what you study to your interests. All the courses are required, and there are no electives. In American high schools, I found it very helpful that I could concentrate on a few things, but the few things that I thought that I wanted to study more intensively. In California, I stayed with a family for a year, and I had an extremely interesting and very fruitful year. Everything was new, everything was very colorful, everything was very interesting. And when I went back to Greece, I had a lot to talk to people about my experiences. And I'm sure that part of the reason of coming back to the U.S. was because of the pleasant memories and experiences I had in 1957.
In 1963, Achilles returned to the United States in order to further his education. Like the earlier immigrants who planned to get what they could from America and then return home, Achilles Manolakis found himself staying much longer than he originally expected.
When I came here in 1963, I was 23 years old. And when I came at that time, I had no intentions of staying here. It was only a coincidence and the way things developed that I finally decided to stay here for good. The primary reason I came to the U.S. was not to get a better job or to get away from a given set of social conditions. It had absolutely nothing to do with this. The main reason I left Greece was to continue my graduate education. And while I was doing that, then I decided that I would like to stay here for good. There were many reasons. One of them were better research opportunities than I would find in Greece. And that's how it started. But then slowly, for reasons that I really don't know, I started thinking more and more of staying here permanently and less of going back to Greece permanently. And then I applied to become a resident. And then a few years later, I applied to become a citizen. And in a way, that's how it developed. I didn't have very much problems in adjusting to the American way of life. One of the reasons being that I didn't make an attempt to adjust. As I said before, my decision to stay here permanently was a very gradual thing, so at no time did I make a concentrated effort in adjusting and therefore suffering the problems that a person would suffer trying to adjust. It just happened, and it happened very slowly. What I didn't like in the beginning, I disregarded, and I said, well, I have to live through it till I go back. Then maybe a year later, the same things didn't bother me as much. And 5 years later, I didn't think about them. And maybe 10 years from now, I'm even going to like the same things. The biggest change that took place within me when I came to the U.S., and what I mean is not when I first came to the U.S., but as the years went by and I slowly decided to live in the U.S., is that I still feel a little bit of a stranger in the United States, and I still feel a little bit of a stranger when I'm in Greece. And what I succeeded in doing is that there is no one place that I can say with confidence that it is home. Greece is not home anymore, and never will be, and the U.S. is not home, not yet at least. Although I feel comfortable in either place, and I like both places. When I decided to stay in the U.S., it was not because I did not like Greece. In fact, I like Greece. I like the U.S.
One of the problems of leaving one country for another is making a life somewhere between the two cultures. Achilles discusses how he is solving that problem.
My family still lives in Greece, and I keep very close contact with primarily my family and the very few, but at the same time very close friends who are still in Greece. I have Greek friends in the U.S., but I found that over the years I stopped viewing my close friends along the ethnic lines, whether they're Greek or non-Greek or black or white. It really doesn't make any difference. That it's more whether we can communicate, whether we are compatible, than anything else. There are times where people from Greece or of Greek background create, if not a necessity, at least a very strong feeling of togetherness. for example, on certain religious holidays that only Greeks celebrate, or certain events that since we were children we learned to give a lot of importance, but then no non-Greek would do the same thing too. And in spite of making a choice of living away from Greece, I personally cannot ignore those events or those customs or whatever it may be. And then having some Greeks around, it's a very important thing. One thing that comes to my mind is celebrating Greek Easter. Greek Easter is the most important and the holiest holiday for Greek Orthodox. It is more important in a way than Christmas, which in the rest of the Christian world, Christmas is considered the most important. I don't know how it developed to be the most important thing, but for one reason, to compare Christmas and Easter, Christmas comes in the winter and Easter comes in the spring. And the spring is more pleasant than winter. In any case, Easter in Greece is celebrated by everybody going to church. There is a midnight service and everybody goes there. In fact, there is not enough room in the churches for that, so everybody goes in the streets where you hear the service from the loudspeakers. And after midnight, everybody goes home and they have Easter soup, which is some concoction that you eat it once a year. I don't think you would like to eat it more than once a year. But that day it tastes great. And you have firecrackers and fireworks, and everybody's kissing each other and celebrating and singing. And you have Easter eggs, which you hold in your hand and somebody else comes with another one and sort of hits it on the top and see whose egg will break first. Children get new clothes. Easter time is a time essentially that you switch from your winter clothes to your summer clothes. It's a very open type of holiday. It's associated in a way with a rebirth of everything. Not only the religious aspects of the resurrection of Christ, but the rebirth of the nation in a way, the rebirth of each individual. It's essentially a combination of both religious and pagan points of view. By pagan I mean a celebration of spring. So Easter is very special. One thing that I try to keep in touch with is Greek literature. So my family and my friends, they keep sending me books, and by now they know the type that I like. And I found that this was very helpful in keeping in touch with Greece today, and not with Greece of what it used to be years ago. One thing that I noticed that many Greeks do when they come to the U.S. is they lose complete contact with the so-called old country, and they form in their minds some ideal nation that years later when they go to visit, they're very disappointed because after all, it's not what they thought it was. For many reasons. First of all, you create a lot of things that don't exist and never existed. And at the same time, things change over there. And to a lot of people, especially those coming from a small town, 10 or 20 years later they go back and they find out that the small town is not small anymore. That's a great shock and quite often a big disappointment. I have kept in touch with Greece and I visit often enough that I feel very comfortable when I'm there and very comfortable when I'm not there.
Being both Greek and American has a special meaning for Achilles Manolakis.
There are a lot of things about Greece that make me feel proud that I am a Greek and a Greek American. Some of these things go back to the ancient times, but more than anything else, it's what Greece is today. For good or for bad, in my mind, Greeks are very highly individualistic people, and I like this. They love life. They're very open people. They like to sing and they like to dance. They like to enjoy life. Above all, that's what I'm more proud being Greek than its ancient history. One thing that has changed over the years, and it made my decision to stay here a much easier one, is what I think is an understanding of the American ideals. That's not necessarily what we see every day around us. In fact, I suspect that those ideals are practiced very rarely, but still they exist. Things like the American Constitution, democracy, freedom, things like this. maybe the reason I feel very strongly about democracy is because ever since I was a child, I was told about democracy and about Athens and how everything developed there more than 2,000 years ago. But anyhow, at least as ideals, they're very clear in my mind, and I believe in them. I believe in them very strongly, and to the extent that I can, I practice them. That's something that the U.S. has given to me.
Poor farming conditions and the Greek War for Independence in 1821 led to the beginning of Greek immigration to the United States, but large numbers of Greeks did not start arriving here until the 1870s. Many settled in the cities of Boston, New York, and Chicago. Although most of those immigrants were farmers who planned to return to Greece when they had made their fortunes, the majority stayed here and never farmed again. Instead, they found work in the building trades or in service occupations in such places as restaurants and grocery stores. In 1912, the Balkan Wars broke out, with Greece and her allies fighting against Turkey. Between 4,000 and 5,000 Greeks living in the United States went back to fight for their motherland. Many others here organized political and economic support. Sam Fortosis, who was growing up in Greece during this period, recalls his childhood and the circumstances that brought him to the United States.
I came to the United States in 1914 from Greece. All I can tell you was poverty. And that's one reason why I came to this country, to better myself. I left my home. I wasn't quite 10 years old, because I was the 11th in the family, and we didn't have enough to eat. So I had to go and seek employment elsewhere, not in the same town. That is, employment to some house to do things, go here and go there, go to the store, so I could eat and go to school. But unfortunately, these people were almost as poor as my folks. I stayed 4 years there, and I would say I went to school about 3 to 4 months. And then I went back to my village, to my parents. I went to school there 1 year. Then my mother died, and I had to leave home again. I went to Piraeus. Piraeus is an international port. I went there without knowing anybody or anything at all. Just took a chance to go over there and find some kind of employment in a grocery store or whatever to make a living. This was in 1912-13. And then the war broke out, Balkan War. The Balkan War broke out, and my brother, my oldest brother, was here in the United States. He came from here to Greece to go to the war. And he found me in a tavern. I was a bartender, barefooted bartender, in one of these taverns. So my brother went into the service, and about a year later, he finished his service. Then we went to the village, and 3 of us brothers. 1 was here, and 3 of us came. That made us 4. In 1914, we got here. The trip was awful. The boats were then, I used to call them kettle boats. It took 30 days to cross the Atlantic, plus a couple of days from Greece to Italy and so on and so forth. Because of the rough sea, the boat couldn't go ahead. In fact, it was 4 or 5 days we was going backwards instead of coming forwards. All the Greeks that were in there, I don't know, maybe 40, 50, or 60, were all single. Or married, left their wives over there, or single like me. We landed in New York City. I cannot describe it. To me, it was like a dream. I says to myself, I've heard of America, I've heard of New York City. I didn't know what it was like, and here I am. And here I am in New York, in America. It was like a dream. I mean, just the way I'm telling you, that's how I felt. From the boat, I went to the train, and the train took me to Nebraska. My other brother was there, and he was working at the Union Pacific, and so did I. I went there and got a job there. The first few months I was sick. Sick, what I mean, I felt sick because I used to hear the people talk and I didn't understand, and that upset me. And there was no way to go to school because we got a job at the railroad, and railroad, you know, was in the outskirts. It was wilderness almost. Like Kearney, Nebraska, Julesburg, Colorado, Pine Bluffs, Wyoming, Cheyenne, Wyoming. So Cheyenne was a pretty good sized town then, but the rest of it was no other place, no place to go to school. And in 1915, went to Spokane, Tacoma, and Maytown. Maytown, we stayed there. We got a job working for some railroad. I forget the name. I think it was Northern Pacific for 2 or 3 weeks. And we used to take our lunch to go out and work on tracks, you know. There was some kind of flies, black flies, by the millions of them. And you took a piece of bread. By the time you go to put it in your mouth, it was full of flies. You couldn't eat it. That's how many. There must have been millions and billions of them. It was awful. From there, I went to Thompson Falls, Montana. I got a job there, and it was the Burlington Railway, I think it was. They were building 100 or 150 miles of electrified track. Now, we built the dam there, and we built the powerhouse. In other words, we took the river from here, and we put it there. We dug down 400 feet, and we brought the river back in the pipes. The water, the whole river was in the pipes to produce electricity. It was so cold that we put a bucket of water outside in winter time, and in about an hour's time was like a rock. But I didn't mind. I liked it. We got $2.50 a day, working 9 or 10 hours a day, and that was a good pay. Out of that 2.5, we paid $1 to the company, which they gave us shelter and food, 3 meals a day for $1. The Greeks were together, the Italians were together. They used to live, sleep, eat, and everything in the boxcars. The boxcars were turned into a home. You know how the big boxcar is? In the middle, they had a stove. We used to do the cooking over there. And on either side of the boxcar, there was like a bed with boards. And we put blanks there, and we slept. 4 on this side, 4 on this side. 8 in the boxcar. We used to bake our own bread, wash our own clothes. In fact, my oldest brother used to build a homemade oven outside with bricks. Make bread, bake it, and big loaves, you know. It was very good.
The hard life of these early immigrants was further complicated by prejudice and discrimination.
Of course, we had a tough, not only the Greeks, but a lot of the minorities. You know, America wasn't like it is today. I'm sorry I can't use the language that they used to use, but they looked down upon you like nothing. You couldn't mix. I tell you why you couldn't mix, because the little towns out there, we were Greeks or you were Italian. You were considered like a low class, very low class, because we couldn't speak English. And they didn't know anything about the Greeks. So, in other words, we were not welcome altogether, not welcome. If you weren't strong enough to fight, you just got a licking and put your tail under your two legs and go. In other words, we took it. We couldn't give it back until we could speak a few words of English and we got a little stronger, and then we started giving it back. Then I went to the service. I went to the First World War. On troop train, there was a boy, I guess he was of Swedish descent, and he says to me, he says, "You know what we call you?" I says, "No. We call you a WAP." I didn't know what a WAP meant, which really don't mean anything. But it doesn't mean anything good either. So I says, is that good or bad? He said, "Not too good." Well, I call him a name, but I don't want to repeat it. I says, "Don't you ever say that again. It's no good." He didn't say that again. And we went to Georgia, we went to Boston, and we came back to Long Beach, Long Island. He never said that again, no more. In other words, he respected me.
Having been in the United States for 54 years, Sam Fortosis talks about the feelings he and members of the Greek community have for the United States.
It gave me a chance to enjoy liberty. In fact, I'm going to tell you a little story how I feel about it. In 1937 in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, we celebrated something about the Constitution of the United States, and every ethnic group had a parade. They took part in a parade. So we have an organization, it's called the American Hellenic Educational Progressive Association. We went into a little store, about 15 of us, to arrange things to get in the parade, but it costed a few $100s. We had to hire a band and this and that. So there was a man, and he was a son of our priest. So when he heard that we was going to spend $600-700 to parade, he says, why don't you spend that money to fix something in the church? I says, look, you're my friend, I respect you. I know you have a great deal of education, but we are the ones that are going to spend the money for the parade. We are the ones that are going to spend it to fix up the church. But I says, now is the time for us, Greeks, or any ethnic group, to show their appreciation of this country, because they give us freedom to have our own church. They give us freedom to have school if we want to, have our business, we make a living here. I says, this is one time we show our appreciation to America. If you tell me now, if you ask me, that which country do you like better, Greece or United States? You know what I will tell you? That the only way to find out is to cut out my heart and split it in half, and we'll see United States on one side and Greece on the other side. You have to love them. I was born there, I was raised here. You got to love them both, right? That's how I feel.
Anastasia Stephanios is another immigrant who left Greece because of poverty. When her father died, leaving her mother with 8 children to support, Anastasia decided it would be best for them to join her brother in America. But tragedy struck her family during their stay on Ellis Island. Anastasia's sister had contracted trachoma, a contagious eye disease which was common amongst European immigrants. Those afflicted with the disease were barred from entry into the U.S. and were either detained at Ellis Island or deported.
The time my father died, I write to my brother, myself. I say, please, brother, bring in America my family, because I'm going to suffer. 8 children. My mother can't work, nothing to do. And say, my brother, right. He sent the money, and I came in America. I came 1922. All my families come here. My mother, my sisters, my brothers. And the time I came in the United States, it came in Ellis Island. And I stayed 2 weeks in Ellis Island. My brother in the army, he came to pick up me, everybody, my brother, but Ken, he said, you have to stay in Ellis Island 2 weeks. But, after he tried to take me out, my youngest sister, it's got something in the eyes. I don't know what happens. The last day, you go out, everybody. Come the doctor say, can't go out to your youngest sister because you're going to bring in the hospital. My brother pick up me, everybody. And my sister, my youngest sister, come to the hospital. He lived 40 days. But after, 40 days, my sister died, 18 years old.
Many Greek customs observed in the old country were also a part of the immigrant's life here. By custom, a father selects his daughter's husband, but it was Anastasia's brother who performed this duty in America.
After 1924, I got to Connecticut, Derby, Connecticut. And my brother, together my brother and the nice man, make the same time business. They say, I'd like to marry you. Say, my brother, you're going to marry this boy because he's a very good man. worked hard, got money, and I married 1924, and I got good, very nice life. My husband got a restaurant. He said, no, you stay home because I got baby. And say, don't come to work. Sometime after my children, I send it to college, my children, I go to help my husband. But, this time, meet American people, I like to talk to, find out, argue, go to the store to buy clothes, Can't do my husband all the time because he works 16 hours a day, my husband. No have time to bring me, no car. I don't have no car this time. It's trolley cars. I take my children in trolley cars. It's a little hard. I can talk tall English, Greek. But I start to go to the night school after I be American citizen. The American people help me to talk English.
Life in Greece had a different pace from life in America. Often the new immigrant found it difficult to adjust.
Greek people like all the time have good times, then drink and this again. No, work hard just like American people. No. The time come 2 o'clock, everybody come home to eat and sleep to 4 o'clock this afternoon. 4 o'clock, they're up to go back to work and come 7 o'clock home and go out, have good time all night. 10 o'clock, come home to eat and have good time, No work hard just like American people. I think it's much better. More quiet, more American people too much excited because work hard. I see my husband, 16 hours a day, I don't go no place. I don't have no good times. Never. I stay home because I don't got nobody to bring me. After my husband be old, I go some places. I got a house, big house like this. I'm all alone. I don't got no service, nothing, because it's too expensive. Stay home, cook, wash, scrub the floors. I don't go much in movies, no. It's different. I came from village. I'm different.
In 1958, George Vordakis had an accident on board the transatlantic ship for which he was an engineer. Upon reaching American shores, he was taken to a hospital near New York, and while there he developed a strong liking for this country. But even before he landed here, the United States had always held a special attraction for him.
We approach the waters of the United States, and you feel different person, actually, because you hear so much for history, you hear so much from the people who live this country, and it's require experience, And you come to the United States, and the first day you see the cars, you see the people, the way they dress, you see the way they active, actually, Sometimes people say, well, if you go to the United States, somebody's going to rob you, somebody's going to kill you. I never have the fear. We left the ship and we went to New York. Amazing, the buildings. Even to me, the streets was clean. I was very, very happy to see a country and all the technology and all these things. 101-story building, the Empire State Building. You will see 8-9 million people live in a small island, and amazing, No other country compared with the United States. Like I said, I travel, I saw other countries. I never see countries have the opportunities you have in this country. I mean, look me, I came over here with no language. I came with nothing, actually. Just get up the boat. I have difficult to ask you for a meal, go to the restaurant and ask you for a hamburger or a hot dog, because the language, the very, I remember the priest of the Greek Orthodox Church said to me, "Don't worry about it." And this is amazing. This is the difference of the people to help you. The people, the first day I was in a hospital, you'd be surprised how many people, even strange, came to see me. I remember the people left me notes after they left the hospital, nurses, doctors, everybody, you know. I mean, you don't find things like this not in Greece, but no other country.
While he was recovering from his accident, George Vordakis met and married an American woman whose parents had come here from Greece many years before. George and his wife soon had to decide where to live and how to support themselves. Eventually, they opened up a root beer stand, but it took a while for that to happen.
Many people said to me, well, you marry your wife because you want to stay over here. I said, no, that's not the point. I offered my wife to go to Greece and live over there. And meantime, I was scared because I said, well, what am I going to do over here? I never knew these opportunities, you know. And we left, after we married, we went to Greece. We spent 3.5 months honeymoon, actually, in order to prepare all these papers for the immigrants to re-enter the United States. I came back, and my brother-in-law offered me a job, and I worked in the dry cleaner as a delivery boy. In the meantime, I went back to school, night school, to learn the language. I spent about 2 or 3 years in night school, and then my wife was pregnant with the first one, so that's it, because we are short money, actually, and my wife worked, and I worked. It was tough. We came back with $200. She don't have no money, I don't have no money. But the few months I stayed in this country, I saw the opportunities. A lot of people came over here, not became rich, but became good citizens, and they became a businessman, they became professionals, you know. So I said, why not me? So in the meantime, I work as a car hop and a driving in restaurant at nights. So one day somebody told me a place in Hightown for sale. So we came down, we saw the place. So I asked the man how much you want. He said, well, so much. So I said, fine, I'll let you know in a few days. The next day we went back. We said, we're going to buy the place. We called a lawyer. I explained to him the man, he wanted $40,000 for the place. And he wanted so much down, they want $10,000 down. So my lawyer said, you're crazy. To go and spend $40,000, you don't have one penny in your name. So you're going to go buy $40,000 worth of business? So I said, don't worry about it. I have faith in me, and I have faith in my wife. So my father said to me, well, I have someone in the basement. He never believed in the bank. So he handed me the down payment. So we bought the business. 2 years later, I decided to build an ice cream place. Now, we owe $20-some thousand to the guy. He took the mortgage on it. I went to the bank. I said, well, I want to build an ice cream place next to the Stewart's. He said, well, the property's not worth the money you want. I asked him for $55,000. He said, I don't know if we'll be able to give it to you $55,000 you're asking. Now I said, well, if you don't give it to me, I have to find the money. I have to knock some doors to find the money because I feel I need the place and I like to build a place. I'm going to go someplace else if you say no. 2 days later, they called me up and pick up the $55,000. Amazing, you know. So when I pick up the check, he said to me, normally we don't do that to anybody, but we admire your guts, you know, that where you came and asked for the money. And so I said, well, I thank you very much. And since then, everything rolled towards me, you know.
Although George Vordakis chose to become an American, he still values his Greek background and wants to make sure that his children understand what it means to be Greek.
I want them to learn the language. I want them to learn the religion because we're Greek Orthodox. They have to follow my religion, my wife's religion, you know. We attend the church as much as we can. We have a teacher come over here once or twice a week, teach them the language, you know. They speak the language. I want them to get as much education they can because I feel these countries have you have the opportunities. Why not take advantage, you know? I heard a lot of friends, they want to go back. And I told them many times, I said, I bet you're not going to stay more than 1 year. But I love this country and I don't think so you'll be able to go back. Because I'm part of the country. I raised my family over here and we have the nice days, we have bad days, we struggle for our lives. You know, like I said, I came with $200 in my pocket. I'm not a millionaire now. I'm not bragging. I have $1 million. I have a comfortable living. I have a happy family, and house and business. I'm healthy. My family is healthy. And what do you want to ask more? To me, if Greeks, immigrants, produce a good citizen, that's the best for me. But I'm not judging the people by the occupation or the job they have. If they push hot dog car or they work in a low-paid job, to me, I think they're good citizens. Now, of course, if they have the opportunity, if they have the brains to grab the opportunity this country have and become better citizens and better jobs, I give them credit. And I believe a lot of Greeks do a beautiful job for this country. They stay clean, let's face. You know, here, Greeks to belong to the different organizations, our laws, things like that. You know, here, too many Greeks named in the newspaper. And this is making me proud, you know. I'm proud because I have Greek background. But again, I'm proud because I'm an American citizen.